Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Alvi from Techitron, and today I'm reviewing the Walton Primo G7 Plus. If this name sounds familiar to you, it's because I reviewed the Walton Primo G7 just a while back, and I've left the link to that as well as a card over here, so definitely check that out. Now this phone is a budget smartphone whose main highlight is the use of Android 7.0 Nougat. I'll make a few comparisons between this phone and the G7 in this review, as well as give you my opinions about this device in particular. So stay tuned and enjoy. The design of the G7 and G7 Plus may look similar, but there is one key difference between the two. This phone has a glossy finish, whereas the G7 had a sort of a matte finish. Now you'd imagine that this would catch a lot of fingerprints because of that finish, but as there is a sort of brushed metal texture on the back, you hardly notice the fingerprints when they're there. You can take off this back, which is obviously made of plastic, and that allows you to access the dual micro SIM card slots as well as the microSD card slot. The buttons on the right hand side are made of plastic, and these are a bit on the soft side, but they're still quite responsive. On the bottom we have a single speaker, and this actually gets decently loud. The dimensions of this and the G7 are absolutely identical, which means this phone has quite a large footprint as well as a bit of a heavier weight. The display is a 5.5-inch IPS panel with a 720p resolution, as well as 2.5D Corning Gorilla Glass 2 for protection. So even though this is a budget phone, you are getting some good form of protection on the front. Now, as this is an IPS display, the viewing angles are great and the colors too look quite nice for the price. But I have to mention that the brightness on this device's display is very good, just like the G7, which means you can use it in all sorts of outdoor and indoor environments without any issue. Now the display only supports 2-finger multi-touch, and the responsiveness could use a little bit of work, but in my time using the device, it was a very small issue. The software on the phone is Android 7.0 Nougat, and just like the G7, it's been kept very close to stock Android with a very light skin on top. What this means in actual usage is that you get a nice and fluid experience, which is overall very fun to use and very hassle-free. Now we've gone into more detail about this UI itself in the Walton Primo G7 review, so I definitely suggest you check that out. But in short, you get all the wonderful optimizations of Android 7.0 Nougat, along with split-screen multitasking, as well as my favorite feature, the ability to recently switch between your recent apps. So, yay! Inside the G7 Plus is a 1.3 GHz MediaTek processor, just like the G7. But the difference here is that you get 2 GB of RAM instead of 1 GB of RAM, along with 16 GB of built-in storage. So you can expect very similar gaming performance out of the G7 Plus, but you'll have better multitasking capabilities with this phone compared to the G7. Now obviously this is not a gaming smartphone, but given the optimizations of Nougat as well as the power inside, you can actually play games like Asphalt Extreme, GTA San Andreas, and even Modern Combat 5 on low settings at quite a comfortable place. The battery is also rated at 2800 mAh, which means you can expect to get a full day of use out of this phone without any issues whatsoever. The main camera is a 13 megapixel BSI sensor, and it has a dual LED flash. The front-facing camera is an 8 megapixel BSI sensor, and it also has a single LED flash. Now when we compare our images to that of the G7, there's definitely a lot more detail when compared to that, as well as, in my opinion, some better colors. But overall, if you take the smartphone outdoors into good daylight shooting conditions, you can expect some very nice looking photos. But then again, because of this budget, it's not going to be anything outstanding. In low light situations, obviously both cameras suffer quite a bit, but the front-facing camera actually doesn't do half bad when you're using the single LED flash. It doesn't really overexpose the face, but it's still definitely better than not having that flashlight in the first place. At 8,590 taka, the Walton Primo G7 Plus is a good smartphone. It comes in 3 different colors, which are gold, gray, and coffee. The main highlight of the smartphone was the use of Android 7.0 Nougat, and I think Walton delivered on the sense that they've given you a nice and smooth user experience with very little to no bloat. But aside from that, I think you're also going to get some very decent cameras as well as some nice performance out of the device. So thank you for watching everyone. You know what to do. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up, comment below, and definitely subscribe. And if you didn't like it, let me know what I can do to make the next video a better one for you. Also, I should mention we're having a giveaway, and the links to all of that are in the description. I'll drop a card somewhere over here so that you can enter for your chance to win a free smartphone. Thanks for watching. This has been Alvi from Techitron, and I hope to see you in many more videos.